the Stipe that fought Daniel Cormier the first time, Jon Jones probably manhandles.
Yes.
But I had dinner with Stipe, I don't know, probably 3 weeks ago.
Great guy.
And he's absolutely massive.
Is he jacked?
Like he's jacked. Like probably 255, 260, like yoked, like in the firehouse, just lifting weights the whole time, yoked.
Good for him, man.
And now, Brendan Thiccc Schaub.
Good to see you, Mr. Anthony Smith. Crushing it, my man. Look at you, dude. You're all over the place. How you feeling, brother?
Well, I'm good, man. I'm just trying to get more checks without getting punched in the face.
Right? That's the goal, man. But you just happen to be pretty damn good at getting punched in the face, too. Like, you're one of those rare breeds. DC was another guy who could do it, where Dominic Cruz, where you can do the TV stuff and the analyst stuff and the podcasting, but then still compete at a very high level. Like, not just like a guy who's coasting, you can tell they're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, but I mean, you're, top 10, top 5 just a few months ago. Like, you're at the highest level. Then also playing grab ass with my dumb ass who's completely retired,
Yeah. I just don't want to, I don't know. I don't want to have nothing left, like when I'm done, I don't want to finish competing. And once the sport's done with me, not know what I'm going to do after that. Cause I didn't have a backup. I had no idea what I was going to do. This was a total accident.
Yeah. I don't think you could get to your level where you're a top 5 guy, you're the tip of the spear guy, guys that fought, the Jon Jones of the world and those big names, and then have a backup plan. You can't really be that guy's like, well, I'm just doing the UFC for now, and I'm going to jump over here into entertainment. Doesn't really work out like that, because those guys that are half in, half out, you're not sniffing the top 10. So for you, it just
you got to burn the boats.
Yeah, exactly. You burn the boats 100%. It's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
I think for you, what makes you an outlier is, you're an articulate, smart dude. Where we grew up in gyms, man. Most guys aren't like that. Like, you articulate well, you've been in there, just your experience alone and the way you can express that is what makes you an outlier. That's why it works. That's why you have a fan base outside of just getting punched in the face.
Well, I think people can relate, because I'm just a regular dude doing extraordinary shit. Like, I'm just I live in a regular neighborhood, dude. I drive regular vehicles. All my friends have regular ass jobs. I don't hang out with celebrities or, like, I don't really even know that many other athletes that don't fight.
Yep.
And I just think that, like, I didn't come through college sports either. So I didn't have I wasn't like a special athlete doing something else that switched over. Like, DC and Cruz were fantastic wrestlers. Cruz was fighting way early when it wasn't cool. And kind of made that transition. I didn't come from anything, Stu. I wasn't good at anything.
Which is weird. You say you're not good, but you're a big athletic guy. Like, you're not small. You're a massive guy. How the hell did you not get in sports as a kid?
I mean, I played. I just wasn't special. Like, I came from a real small Nebraska town. I had 5,000 people in it. So, like, success there, and nothing against anybody that lives there still or that I grew up with. But, like, if you could get a job at one of the 5 factories around and work your way up to a supervisor, like, you're making it, like, you got the nicest house and you're driving the new truck all the time. Like, that was success. That's just never me.
Yep. And I think too, what's not challenging, it's good too, because, good news or bad news is always good. It's still getting clicks, but because you are an analyst, you're a commentator, you do the show with Bisbing, who I love, but you're also, again, you're one of the top contenders. So when you speak, people listen. So, for instance, and I co-signed this when you said this. You're like, I'd be happy if this is Amanda Nunes' last fight. I hope she retires. It'd be dope if she. And I think you have to walk through that fire to appreciate her retiring and having her wits about her. Yeah. She has kids. She has a family. She's done it all. And even with Conor McGregor, which we'll get into, but even with Conor, I'm like, I hope he's done. That'd be dope. You're telling me this guy has made it through. He's the highest paid athlete, one of the highest paid athletes of all time, and he has his wits about him. He's done. Oh man, this is great. I think being a fighter, we promote that. It's like, oh man, I hope that happens. The fan base doesn't understand that. They want to see them fight. They want to see them get punched in the face. And eventually those people end up like a BJ Penn or Diego Sanchez. So when you said that, I'm like, yeah, completely agree. But then I see the headlines, And it's like they're like almost mad at you. I'm like, oh, these are just writers or journalists or people in the game that have never fought. They don't understand this is such a great story for Amanda Nunes. But you got blasted for it. You got blasted for it.
Oh, dude. That's the new thing these days is just kind of taking out of context stuff that I say, and some of that is my fault because I just don't give a shit. Like, because I live in my own bubble. Like I'm here in Omaha, Nebraska. Like I don't dig myself super deep, and I don't connect myself or how I feel about myself to like that side of the world. So like I've spent, I was at the radio show earlier today. I've been by the pool ever since with a whole bunch of people, and we didn't talk one thing about fights. And I come back in here and we do this, and like I say how I feel, and then I just kind of leave it, and that's what it is. But I did see I got kind of blasted for that, and I don't understand how people could be upset about that. Like, I guess the way that I looked at it is she's got the fame she doesn't even want because she hates everything else around. Like she hates the bullshit that comes along with this. She hates
the countdowns, all that stuff. You can tell she's not
right. She hates she's not into it. She hates the camera. She hates the interviews, just the circus part of this show. But she's got all the money. She's got the records. She's got the 2 belts.
Greatest
she's got
time.
Another baby on the way. She's got the houses, the cars, for what? Like, why do you keep going? Because like, I got a lot of cool shit, but I don't have the records. I'm not a multi-millionaire like she is. I don't have the belts. So like, I'm still chasing that. So I'm still like in the fire.
Yep.
But like, what's the reason for her to continue to go? So like, I say, I look forward to seeing how happy she's going to be. And people are like, wow, you're looking for her, her demise.
Yeah,
but then she retires and she's in the octagon running around in circles,
never
dancing
seen her
with her kid, pouring beer over her head. Never.
And I think that validated your point. It was like, yeah, look how happy she is. This is exactly what Amanda Nunes wants to do. She owes you guys nothing. She's given it all. She's done it all. She's hands down, no argument, the greatest female fighter of all time. It's over, guys. This is how you want their movie to end, man. We don't want to end where she's slurring her words and, she's broke and she has to fight because she has to take care of the kids. We don't want that. And why people advocate for that, I have no clue. Again, it'd be hard pressed to find anybody who's actually fought at that high level in the UFC just in general, that didn't agree with you. I really only saw, I think, other like journalists, and maybe some of the bullshit media outlets go against your point of view there. I didn't see anybody who's actually made that walk disagree with you. I could be wrong. I don't think so though.
No, and I didn't see too much of it either. It's just, I don't know. I just feel like I seen a weight lifted off of her shoulders.
Agreed.
And just like a chance for her to finally, truly relax. And also, every time you win I've never won the title.
Yeah.
But I would imagine that every time you win the title or you defend it, the next thing that you're talking about is it's who's next. You never get to enjoy the moment. It's the same thing with just a regular fight. It's as soon as you get to the post-fight press conference, it's who's next, what's next person. You're looking at dates. You're like,
it's exhausting.
She's got small kids. I got small kids. Like I would love to just fight sometime and have everything that I've ever wanted. And like, you already got the titles and the belts and the money and all that stuff. And just like sit down and be like, fuck it. Like I'm out.
I agree. And
I'm out and I'm just going to be home.
Agree. And raise my kids, man. And I have to worry about things. Like she's won in every facet. I think too, one of the reasons like I didn't do well with it, because to your point, heavy lies the crown, especially when you're a title holder. I remember Rhonda saying that like people don't realize when you become a world champion, what that entails. It's not only you're just a UFC fighter, but now the UFC is banking on you carrying the card. So if you're just the first fight in the main card, you have some obligations media wise, but they're not expecting you to sell actual pay-per-views. So when you're that championship degree, that level, the amount of press you have to do, all the shit nonstop, it's exhausting. Heavy lies the crown. Even Frank was like, dude, it's just a different animal. Once I became champion, it wasn't that I didn't enjoy fighting, it just took the fun out of it for me. He was like, I was exhausted, nonstop selling cards. And that's what I struggled with. It's like, I remember beating Crow Cop and they put me in the top 10. My coaches were all celebrating, like, you're top 10. I looked at them and I went, well, what's next, dude? 9, 8, and 7 are nightmares, dude. That's what's next. Then what's after 7? 6, 5, 4? I don't want to do that.
Your reward is tougher fights.
Yeah, man, your reward's getting your ass whooped. Unless you're a Jon Jones or some shit. But to that point, no one talks about it. Like I always said it like this. It's like if you had a bully in elementary or middle school and high school, there's a bully. You can navigate your way and, get away from them. But in fighting, it's like that bully, you can take a vacation to Hawaii after one of your big fights that you won. That's your next opponent. It's on your mind 24/7. You can kind of try and, get away from it, but that bully follows you wherever. It's in your luggage, wherever you go. Some guys handle it great, like you have. You've had a great career. Conor does well with it. Jon's probably done the best with it. He can do all sorts of shit and still deal with it. For me, it was so exhausting, and the anxiety I had and the stress I had all the time. It was such a relief when I was done, And so I think for Amanda, to wrap that up with Amanda, it's like, she must feel such a sense of relief. Like, not only did I do it and I was able to deal with all this pressure, I did it the best to ever do it. And I have 2 young kids and I have money in the bank. I have fame in Brazil. I'm Tom Cruise. I'm good, man. And it should be celebrated. You had a great point, brother.
I mean, and that's the great point too. How people, you just carry it with you all the time. Like I tell people all the time, like training camps are tough, like physically.
Yeah.
But it's mentally, especially now as you get like higher ranked in the division, about these fights longer in advance.
Correct.
Like I've missed the days of like 4-week notices and 6-week notices. You just train and go. But like now it's like 14, 15 weeks and you're doing like a lot of like false starts where you're just trying to like not get fat and totally out of shape, but like trying to still enjoy yourself. But like you wake up and it's the first thing you think about every single day. And as you're going to bed, it's the last thing on your mind. Like by the end of it, I fucking hate that guy. And I don't even know him. It's just, I'm so sick of this dude in my,
the sacrifice. You're just sick of it, dealing with it, man. Let's just get this over, man. Even the fight, I'm like, I don't win or lose. Let's just get this fucking over. I'm sick of thinking about this dude, man.
Right.
It's 100%. Weird, dude. And especially in your division, like light heavyweight division's getting pretty crispy, man. Like it was a little thin for a while there, right? But now it's getting, like you look at the division, you have Alex Pereira coming over there now, which would be a great fight for you. Obviously he's fighting Jon, which is interesting. How do you feel about Alex Pereira going to light heavyweight? I think when you look at, before you answer, when I look at Alex Pereira, naturally 205er, big ass dude. I think that cut at middleweight was a nightmare for him. Light heavyweight, I figured he'd always end up there. His skill set, when you look at the top, like 8 matches up pretty well for him. Not a ton of grapplers. There's a few that we need to keep him away from. But you look at the matchups, like there's a lot of fun matchups for him there. I think he's going to do well. Bottom line, I think he's going to do well.
I think he's going to do well as long as they match him up correctly. And I think they kind of started off on a bad foot already, to be honest.
Agree.
I think that Jan Blachowicz, I think you take Jan, you take a guy like Ankalaev is a problem for him.
Can't fight him. That when they say he's going to light heavyweight, I'm like, Ankalaev, you're out, dude. What are you trying to do? You're out. We can't have that.
You're injured.
Yes,
you're injured.
This ain't happening. Take a vacation.
Because he'll never beat Ankalaev. It's just, even if you take the wrestling out of it, I still think Ankalaev is tough because he won't engage, which made it really tough for me. He just won't engage at all. And it's no secret at this point. Like, if you're a good leg kicker and you don't fully commit to engaging in any like actual striking exchange, I'm gonna have a tough time with you because I kind of need that fire a little bit. Man. I think that he's I think there's questions. I guess what I'm getting at.
That's fair.
If his chin issues are a weight cutting issue because he is sucking himself down so far, I think a lot of us know that the more weight you cut, the worse your durability is.
Correct.
If that solves itself a little bit, I think that he's going to do very well. If he has any chin issues at all, the problem at 205, especially right now, is there's some straight bangers.
You boys,
some guys they'll step right in the fire too. It's like heavyweight power with middleweight athleticism. It's 205 is kind of it's a funky ass. It's a funky ass weight class. Yeah,
too. That light heavyweight's terrifying to me. Terrifying, especially if you're
even Jamal Hill.
Agree.
Like even Jamal Hill will give him problems because Jamal is one. He's so willing to fight. He won't shy away from that fight, I guess is what I'm getting at. And 2, he believes in himself ultimately, which is its own kind of superpower. And he's kind of tricky, like I've sparred around with Jamal. Like you see it from the outside and you're like, man, I feel like I could do really well with that guy. I can get to him. And then you get in there, you're like, oh, okay, this makes a lot of sense. Like he's got really good eyes. Like he's hard to hit. He hinges really oddly at the waist, which you would think would make his body easy to hit, but it's not. and he's powerful, but he's perfectly timed, I think, and his accuracy is right there. So he's kind of a strange guy too. I think a guy like Johnny Walker is probably tailor-made for Alex Pereira because there's no other threat.
I thought that was going to be his first fight. I thought that Johnny Walker was going to be his first fight. Like, again, to your point, Alex Pereira, his reign at light heavyweight is all going to depend on matchups. And the Jan one, I was like, not the fight I'd give him. If we want this guy to be a superstar,
because Jan can wrestle and he's tough on top. I think the Jan fight is going to look very similar to the Adesanya matchup.
Interesting, yeah. I could see that.
Like I've been saying for a long time that Jan Blachowicz might be the best kick defender in the entire UFC across all weight classes. Every matchup, that like big matchup that he's had and won has started kind of with the leg kick stuff. Everything Izzy does starts with his leg kicking game. He's got to kind of establish that range and that distance, and he starts everything from the legs up, and he just couldn't get that going with Jan, and Jan was able to keep it close enough striking to then end up winning the last 2 rounds completely by grappling. Luke Rockhold is very similar. Everything is kind of based off of his kicking game. Never got that going, started trying to wrestle, and we all seen how that ended. So I think Alex Pereira's game is a little bit based like that. Everything kind of starts with the leg kicks and then he works his way up.
Which is trouble for Jan, trouble meaning if you're an Alex Pereira fan and like Jan does that really well, like this matchup isn't tailor-made for him. And
if Izzy can blast double and knee tap anybody, like Jan Blachowicz absolutely can do the same thing. You know what I mean?
100%. And also, we really haven't seen Alex Pereira when you look at like his come up in middleweight. His run was tailor-made to get him to a title shot.
Yeah, he's got a good manager.
Yeah, great manager. Dana's like, we need a narrative with Izzy. He's killing everybody in top 5.
Sure.
So let's get Alex Pereira up there. At light heavyweight, not really the same kind of easy test there, man. Like when I saw Jan, I'm like, definitely going to watch, but I would like a Johnny Walker fight for him. I even think Yuri would be a better matchup than Jan for him.
Yuri would be a good matchup for him. Like even Rakic is a tough matchup, and that guy's mostly a striker, but like he can wrestle when he wants to.
Yeah, and Kalaev, just take a hike, dude. You're going to ruin all the stars. We can't have it. We can't have it, dude. It's like
that guy's tough.
Yeah, hell yeah, he's
not as big as I expected. To be honest with you, he's one of the smaller guys in the weight class. But yeah, he's really patient too. That's especially at the heavier weight classes. You don't run into guys that are as patient as he is. Like he doesn't really care about finishes. He's just there to not make mistakes.
Yeah,
which is tough.
Yeah, he just wants to win. But yeah, light heavyweight is exciting right now, man. With all the Conor stuff going on, you think I need your thoughts on Conor. You think Conor's going to fight? So I think the news is what I was reading. He has today to 6 p.m. to enlist in USADA. If he doesn't do it by 6 p.m., he won't fight this year.
Yeah,
and then the other caveat
for sure.
Before you answer, the other caveat too is someone pressed Dana White like, "Oh, do you think is Conor for sure going to fight?" And Dana, for the first time, which put doubt in my mind because I thought when they had Chandler and Conor as Ultimate Fighter coaches, I'm like, "Oh, they're for sure going to fight. You can't have them not fight." It's happening. I'm a big Conor fan. I'm like, this going down. And then at the press conference last week, someone asked Dana, he goes, it's tough to wrangle these guys in. When they have money, like a guy like Conor, a guy like Khabib, it's very tough to get these guys to fight. I'm like, whoa. Now, again, I'm on the side of the fighters that go, good for Conor. All the money, has the Lamborghini yacht, doing his thing, has the kids. Good for him, dude. Like, right up in the sunset, man. You've done it.
If you have a Lamborghini yacht, you don't belong to hang out with us.
No.
What are you doing here?
No.
What are you doing here, dog?
Some of us aren't like the others, man. So it's like he's just he's at a different level. So when Dana, and I side with Dana on that, it's like, yeah, man. He's like, when they have that much money, it's tough to wrangle these guys in. So, and if he doesn't enlist in USADA by 6 p.m., we're probably not getting the fight this year. I don't know if we see him fight. And you see him partying out there, and you see Chandler in his Instagram, he's like working out all the time. And it's like, I don't, something's going on here, dude.
Yeah, there's something going on. There's a reason. Another thing I got a lot of shit for was kind of questioning, not even really questioning Conor. I was more mad at the rule, not so much mad at Conor because of his whole leg break issue and the reason that he's not in the pool.
Yes.
I don't think that Conor's the type of dude that was probably out there just trying to dope and just get away with something. No. But he had a pretty wicked leg break. And if there was a loophole in the system and he could use whatever substances he has to use to get it healed, like I think that USADA list is a little bit, it's a little bit too narrowed in a lot of places. So there's guys that like Chris Weidman could have definitely used a lot of that stuff because he had multiple surgeries trying to come back from his leg break. I'm sure he could have taken advantage of a lot of that stuff. But it was more just the no transparency with all of that, where it's like, if he just came out and said, look, I found a loophole and I'm going to use it, kind of fuck off. And I'd probably be like, yeah, I guess I get it.
Yeah,
whatever.
But good for you, man.
But if he's not back in it, it feels like there's another reason, you know what I mean? Like whether they're worried about his system not being cleaned out or whatever. I hope we see him fight, but I wouldn't be disappointed if we never seen him fight again. Not because I don't like watching Conor fight. I love watching Conor fight. But again, it's kind of like the Amanda thing. Like, why would you? Two belts, all the money in the world.
Agree.
You got businesses and you got small kids and like, man, just party it up and hang out on your yacht.
I agree. And then also it's like, they're talking about there's an exemption that the UFC can grant, and they're only allowed like 1 or 2 exemptions. If I'm the UFC, I'm pretty transparent about it too. Like, hey man, yeah, he was off there healing his leg. We're going to use the exemption on Conor. The other side of that is like, would you rather him not fight? Do you want to see him fight? We're going to use the exemption. If you guys can complain, the other side, he's just not going to fight. So what do you want here? You care about the rules and regulations, or you want to see one of the greatest to ever do it come back and fight? I would assume if you
it's all everyone knows.
I agree.
One thing, if they came out later after, like if Chandler signs the contract and he wants his red painting night, like you kind of just sign the same issue I had with Jon Jones. Like I never criticized Jon when he was like failing, like when he had the picogram thing going on, when he was pulsing or whatever. I never said anything about it. Like it is what it is. Like I knew all that when I signed the contract.
Yep.
Like we kind of knew the explanation or whatever, whether you believe it or not is up to you. But there was no surprise. Now, if it had happened afterwards and then no one said anything, that's when I would have been pissed. But like, I can't complain about something I knew about and then still sign the contract.
Agreeing. I think Chandler would be the biggest loser here because Conor's set. Whether he fights or not, he's set.
Yeah.
For Chandler, this
whether
is
he wins or loses.
Yeah. For Chandler, this is his big night. So Chandler's gonna be broken hearted. And even Chandler goes, I don't give a shit. 1 test, 2 tests, 6 tests, I don't care. Just get him to the octagon. So even Chandler goes, I know I'm sorry. Just get him in there. Give me the payday. Right. Let's do this. So even he's like, let's do this, man. Yeah.
Which I get if you're Michael Chandler for sure. Like you just need that opportunity. You can work around all the other, the red tape, especially if he's aware of it. And there's some things that you're going to have to work around, but the opportunity absolutely makes it worth it.
And then knowing Jon Jones, it's hard to gauge where he's at as a heavyweight with that Cyril Gane fight. We didn't learn much. Cyril Gane's a white belt. He goes in there, bullied dog, just basic choke, and he's out of there. Fight was a minute long. We don't know what Jon's like in there. How do you see it going for Jon? Obviously, the rumor is Stipe in November. There was some rumor of Sergey Pavlovich, where I think is a very tough matchup for Jon. You think Jon has success like he did at light heavyweight?
No, not the same. Not the same. He'll do well. He'll beat almost every single heavyweight out there. The caveats there are Pavlovich and Stipe. The Stipe that fought Daniel Cormier the first time, Jon Jones probably manhandles.
Yes.
But I had dinner with Stipe, I don't know, probably 3 weeks ago.
Great guy.
And he's absolutely massive.
Is he jacked?
He's jacked. Like probably 255, 260, like yoked, like in the firehouse, just lifting weights the whole time, yoked.
Good for him, man.
And he looks good. Like sometimes, I don't know, sometimes you can tell when Stipe is mentally around or not.
Agree.
So even around some of even the first 2 DC fights, he seemed kind of half in, half out. Like he didn't really give a shit. Now he's asking me, like me and Stipe never talk about fighting because he's just that guy. He doesn't really watch fights. He's not even like a really big fan of the sport.
No, yeah.
But
he likes baseball.
We spent the whole dinner talking about fighting techniques and footwork and movement. And I was like, damn, I didn't even know you knew any of that stuff. Like he's just not into it. So mentally he's focused for sure. And I know that physically he looks a lot better than he has in a long time. So he's definitely paying attention to his body. He's lifting. And I think that's smart. Like a 230-pound Stipe that went in versus DC is going to have a lot of problems with Jon Jones. But
agree.
At 255 or 260 and fast and moving and, with his boxing on point, I think that's a tough fight. And Pavlovich is an absolute monster.
Scary.
I thought he was going to kill me one time.
Why?
We were on the same card and this was maybe two fights ago of his, and we were in the back getting ready to go to like the ceremonial weigh-ins, and he was just like, he's so fucking big. It's different when you're
not
like
fat
next to him.
either,
like,
and not fat. He's just like a big ass Russian.
He's probably wearing like a 3X, just tight as fuck around his chest, and he's got this translator with him, this Russian translator who I see it all the time, whether I'm working or fighting. And I chit chat. I've had some drinks with the guy. He's super cool. And so I'm like, well, I'll just crack a joke because he's making me uncomfortable because he's just staring like right down the back of my head the whole time. So I was like, hey, ask him how come he's so fucking big? And so he just asked him thinking he thinks it's going to be funny. And Pavlovich did not think it was funny at all. He just eyeballed me, looked me up and down, and was like, I eat. I'm like, all right,
okay,
cool.
man. All right,
I'm gonna get the fuck out of here.
Just trying to loosen things up, bro. Just trying to be cool, man.
Yeah,
be cool.
Like,
He's just a scary fucking dude, man. He's just a scary fucking scariest heavyweight there is right now. And for John, it doesn't make a ton of sense. Yeah, for John, it doesn't make a ton of sense to fight him. No. There's no huge upside there. No, besides competition.
And John probably beats him. Beats him.
He'd be a favorite.
But it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be a big seller either.
No, and that'd be the caveat there for John. He's like, I'm not going to make much money, and this guy's a fucking nightmare that barely speaks and sells 7 pay-per-views unless it's in Russia. So with Stipe though, why? With Stipe, I used to train with Stipe, savage. He's such a savage, great cardio. My only caveat when I heard he put on all this weight is being at heavyweight. When you put on weight, it's impossible to get quicker and get faster. When you're fighting John, if it's a slower version, that's such an advantage for John. And by putting on weight, it's also impossible unless there's illegal substance, which I'm not alluding to. Stipe would never. He's a firefighter, for God's sakes. He's more American than any of us. But with if he puts on that weight, we know cardio is going to go down. It's just the way it works.
For sure.
So when you add the muscle, you add the speed factor, and the cardio, it to me, like, there's a few alarms go off for me as a Stipe fan.
Right. Well, and I think the one thing that may help Stipe there is I think that John has probably, again, it's really tough because we didn't see a lot of John. Like it was such an awful sample size. It was such an awful sample. But he in that short sample that we have, he didn't look to move as well. And that could have been a little bit of ring rust because he was out 3 years. So like, again, there might be other things that are going on, but he didn't seem to move as well. And he didn't seem as fast.
Agree.
So if Stipe slows down just a little bit, he may still be faster than John.
That's a good
and
point.
Who knows what John looks like over 25 minutes. I
agree.
That was the shittiest part. I didn't really care who won. I wanted to see Cyril Gane push John striking and have his bouncing in and out style and force John to chase him just to see how John moves. Because John has never been, he moves very well forward and back. He's never been a big angle cutter.
Yeah.
So I wanted to see if he could do that.
Cut off the ring
at heavyweight.
Yeah.
Versus a guy that he's, because everyone else is kind of circled outside the cage, and John just kind of keeps the crosshairs on him and just walks him down. But you can't really do that with Cyril Gane. So there was a lot I wanted to see with John. We just didn't get that chance.
It was disappointing. For him to go to heavyweight, it's his easiest fight in his entire career. We learned nothing, which kind of builds up. Obviously, we're balls deep in fighting. We want to see more out of John, but for the fans, I think it just builds John's narrative even bigger and sells more pay-per-views for the Stipe fight. So we'll see what happens.
Well, and the way that Dana talked about him at the post-fight press conference too, like, I know that probably deep down, Dana was probably thinking the same thing. Like, damn, I wanted to see what he's really like, because Dana's a fan at the end of the day too.
For sure. But
it was really easy to sit up there and sell John as the greatest of all time. And it just added to that narrative that's already there.
Yeah, I'll argue with anybody.
Look what he did to the interim champion.
Agreed.
He just walked right through him. But I think us in the sport, we're like, fuck, like, just want to see him pushed and see what it looks like. And
now what's weird is, Dana's talking about he's open to making a Jon Jones Tyson Fury fight, which, you go down a weird road with that stuff. If they're going to do it, like when Francis left the UFC for the PFL, great deal for Francis. I think it's a bad deal for PFL. We'll see how that works out in the future. We won't know till a few years from now. I'm glad Francis got paid. Great guy. But
me too.
Being a UFC diehard, I'm UFC alumni. I love UFC. I bleed UFC. the bummer with that is if Francis goes on and fights Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, even Tyson Fury at some point, that the UFC is not involved in it. Because for that to be a massive fight, you need the best promoter in the game, Dana White. He needs to be part of it like he was for Conor and Floyd. That's why that fight was so big. I think if UFC is not involved, that fight's not nowhere near as big. So with Francis going that route, I'm like, that's a bummer. If he gets those fights, good for him, but it's not going to be the same as if the UFC had their hand in it. For Jon, the reason why I'm open to it, where, you know, it's a quote unquote a circus fight, Jon Tyson and the UFC's involved. All right, now you got my interest. Now, is he going to get done? Highly doubt it. I don't see Tyson doing it, but it'd be interesting.
Yeah,
it'd be interesting.
Yeah, it'd be great to. You know what else to add to your Francis? I think everything you said there is 100% correct. That it won't be quite the same. I also think that this talk about Francis taking a tune-up fight or a warm-up, like a boxing match, is a terrible idea.
Agree. Awful idea.
Because that leaves the opportunity for people to find out that you can't fucking fight. Like as far as boxing goes,
agree.
Like he's not going to sniff a win with Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder or Ortiz.
It's going to open them up for criticism. Those guys are like, we're good. The cat's out of the bag. The narrative is that this guy's the scariest guy in the UFC. Yeah. So I have even if he fights
someone who's technically better, but it's like a smaller, middle of the road heavyweight, and he, maybe he squeaks out a win or gets a knockout after losing most of the fight or something.
Not good.
They're never going to fight. They're never. You don't need any tape of you actually boxing before you walk in there with a Deontay Wilder or Tyson, because they're not going to take it.
Yeah, and you're spot on. I have a buddy who works with him, and he runs stuff by me. We always talk about fighting. Great guy. And he's part of Francis' team. He goes, want to run this by? What do you think of if Francis just get him in the headlines if he fought in bare knuckle against Alan Belcher? And I go,
sign me up.
I was like, Francis and bare knuckle is, yeah, man. He just knocks him out real quick just to get him in the headlines, and Fury and Joshua and Wilder see this and they want to fight him more. I go, okay, cool. He's not bare knuckle boxer. Belcher's been doing it. We've seen with Mike Perry, moderate success in the UFC, dominates bare knuckle because it's a different game. The distance is different. The techniques are different. It's a very ugly game. And I said, so he's never done it. You have no idea how he's going to perform. I said, and did your team ever consider what happens if he loses? The pros and cons here. If he were to lose that fight,
you know what else is different than bare knuckle? Alan Belcher's drug test.
Correct. That's what I said. Have you seen Alan lately? First team all juicy.
Monster.
Yo, dude, he's so jacked.
He's a monster. I love it. Like that's another one of those things. Like I'm like totally against PDs, but like, listen, if we're in bare knuckle, like I think everyone just kind of knows. Like, whatever. Just run what you brung, I guess.
Yeah, they're fighting with bare knuckles, dude. Of course they're on PEDs. Yeah. It's like slap fight league when they were suspending guys. I'm like, what are we doing here? They're in rash guards. I want these guys on cocaine and steroids. If they're slapping each other, why are we testing these guys? The guy that failed
for cocaine, I was like, why are we testing slap fighters for cocaine?
I was like, wait, they don't give them cocaine?
And if they don't have cocaine, you need to give it to them.
They should be suspended if they're not on cocaine. How
do you feel about the slap fight league?
I'm not a fan. I think it moves the ball backwards for the UFC. I think, God bless them, and I think there is a lane for it, but I don't think Dana should be involved in it. I think he should have been a silent investor and helped on the outside and not get so involved, because the work Dana's done to get to the UFC where it's at, worth whatever $14 billion, it's insane. The work he's done is, God bless him. Nobody else could do it. Insane. But when you go to slap fighting, it takes away because the lines get blurred. And when you're using the UFC's Twitter account and Instagram to promote it, the casual fans like, oh wait, slap fighting UFC? So I think it blurs the lines. I'm not a fan of it. Now I do, again, there's a lane for it and I don't hate on them. Good for them. It's not for me. I'll watch it, but I think where Dana made the mistake is he goes, our TikTok numbers are huge. Cool. So if I'm on TikTok, which I'm not, but if I'm on TikTok or if I'm on, I go to World Star Hip Hop and I see an alligator eating a flamingo. It's cool to see for 15 seconds. I don't want an hour of alligators eating flamingos. It's cool to see. You know what I'm saying? It's like cool to see a guy get slapped and then I move on with my day. I don't need the backstory and their sad story and, they like to do cocaine and slap each other and get all hyped up. I don't think there's an actual professional league there. I think that's what Dana's learning. But Dana's he knows what he's doing, so he'll be able to make money and monetize that, but I just don't think and he learned the hard way, put on TBS, where an hour-long program. I was watching, I'm like, I can't believe they sanctioned this. We're worried about CTE and the UFC. We're seeing CTE.
I think that's why I can't get enough of it. I don't know. I can't get enough of it, bro. I wish I
can't get enough of it, bro. I get the appeal.
I can't get enough of it. I can't look away. It's like
a car crash. Event. It's a car crash.
Yeah, I worked at a pilot event and called it like before anyone even knew what was going on.
Is it cool in person?
And, oh my God, it's one of the if you took the top 10 knockout, I've been fighting since 06. Been at shows, working shows, cut men for shows, been fighting in the UFC. If you take the top 10 knockouts that I've seen in person my entire career, 8 of them happened that day.
Dude,
I'm serious, man.
You're selling me on it, dude.
It was the most insane shit I've ever seen in my life. And then you go in the back and like, I want to meet these guys, like I watched a couple and then we had a little break and they're like, you want to go meet them? And everything that you would imagine one of these guys that would compete in this stuff, what you would imagine they were like behind the scenes, like as a person.
Yeah.
They're exactly that and even better.
Wow.
Like they're just fucking maniacs. They're maniacs. They're like, a couple of them made me uncomfortable. Like, this guy is fucking crazy. This guy's legitimately insane. He belongs here, though. This is the only place that he's
doing exactly what he should be doing. He's doing exactly.
This is exactly where he should be at,
dude. Slapping each other in the fucking face with a rash guard on.
It's so. I don't know. Like, they don't really think it's that crazy, though. That's the crazy part to me.
Neither do bank robbers.
Like, yeah, I'm like, man, are you guys nervous? Like, how do you feel? They're like, whatever. Like, man. They're pretty chill for what they're about to do.
Dude,
you couldn't fucking pay me enough.
No, hell no. And think about the guys we fought. Think about the list of guys you fought. And someone goes, you do slap fight league? I'm like, absolutely not. What are you, out of your mind? No. It's insane. Against
someone that you've never heard of, like just that they pulled out of somewhere in Missouri.
Yeah,
like, no way. I was I was actually a fan of slap fighting before Dana White even had the slap league. There was this like small slap fighting organization. I used to buy their internet pay-per-views.
Oh, you're like a hardcore fan, dude.
Yeah, it's like in Branson, Missouri. So I was a closeted fan too, because I didn't want anybody to know. Like, I just watched it by myself on my phone at night. and then they just happened to call. I was like, oh, the UFC's getting in this shit? Yeah, I'm in. I mean, I already know the rules.
Can I invest?
I know all the best slap fighters in the country. There's like Instagram pages where they have like these underground shows. And they don't tell anybody. Like, they'll put it on like some bullshit, or some bullshit pay-per-view where you pay $8 or whatever. But they don't ever tell anybody when it's happening, like live.
Fantastic.
But they have like pictures of like special guests, UFC fighter Anthony Smith.
Sick.
So like we're in like parking garages and shit.
Sick, it's awesome. Dude. You kind of make me want to get into it now. You're also, I think, the first like legit analyst like advocating for it. Do you get shit for it?
You got to know what it. I get raked over the coals for it. But it's like, I don't know. I just like what I like. Like, I think it's crazy that people are so upset that I like it. Like, have you ever watched me fight? Like, I handed my fucking teeth to a referee in the middle of a fight one time. Like,
you've gotten your teeth.
You think it's weird?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you think it's weird that I like to watch other people get slapped? Like, why are you so shocked?
Yeah. I think for me, I don't want people to get twisted. I'm not anti-slap fight league.
Right.
I'm anti when I put on my business hat. I'm like, I don't see how he's going to make this a proper league, And I think
a lot of us have that wonder as well.
Yeah, but like, as far as it being entertaining,
I don't know how you make $1 billion doing it.
Yes,
but as long as you're gonna do it, I'm gonna watch.
You fair? Yeah, fair.
I think I'm very similar. I think I'm very similar to you. Like, I don't really care so much about their backstories and their I don't mind chilling and BSing with them when I'm at the Apex or something. Like, they're a bunch of maniacs and they're fun to hang out with a little bit, but I don't really care about their home lives and where they used to work. And
no, I don't need the sad story. It's like when I watch porn, I don't need a backstory on the lady. It's like that's not funny. I don't need a backstory. Yeah. I don't need the whole setup. Yeah. Oh, her car broke down. She needs help at this mechanic. What's this big dick? It's like with slap fight. Just do it, man.
Right.
Yeah,
just go.
Dude, you've sold me that slap fight. Again, I'm not a hate on slap fight league, and I hope it makes $1 billion. I'm not a hater on it. I just did when I watched for an hour. Now, to that point, my wife couldn't stop laughing. She loves it. She's like, I
My
can't.
wife loves it
She's
too.
like, I can't believe they're doing this, and she's laughing the whole time. Like, well, maybe there is something here because
There's something.
Maybe it's
my wife
because-
doesn't even really watch fights that much.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
she'll watch it here and there.
Yeah.
But if slap fighting's on, like
She's tuned
she'll
in.
have a couple friends over. They're making Moscow mules and those big ass cups, and because they don't want to leave.
She's like, babe, it's Slap Night Tuesday. You're like, what? It's a day now?
You're like, what? Yeah, like I'll forget about it. She was like, wait, what do you want to do tonight? You want to go out to dinner? She's like, are you serious?
She's like,
Slap
"Dinner?
fight league's on.
You know what Slap Fight Tuesday?
All right.
What are you out of your mind?
No,
Big Jimmy's
She's like,
on.
no, bitch, you're cooking, and we're watching the slap fight league.
Get some cold ones.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
Now. All right. That's
All right.
hilarious. You've sold me on Slap Fight, dude. Again, I was never a hater on it. I hope anything the UFC touches does well. I think my issue was the way it was promoted through the UFC, and the UFC worked so hard, and people's put so much hard work.
I never thought about the blurring the lines thing that you talked about. I never even considered that.
That was my only issue. I was like, if you just did it separate and it was his own identity, do that. And I'll ride with you. But it got blurry for me there, and I'm like, oh, don't do that though, because if you're looking at this guy in a rash
casuals
guard,
might not know the difference.
that's my point, and that's where I get a little scared with the WWE stuff. Where how far are we going to cross pollinate here? Where my dad's like, wait, the Undertaker's fighting Francis, and I'm like, what? No, Undertaker's not real, Dad. So it gets blurry for the casuals. That was two weird.
I worried about the WWE thing too, where there's already like a weird, I don't know, crossover with the fans.
Yes,
excuse me, crossover with the fans. So, the casual, very like flyby MMA fans and the flyby WWE fans, like maybe they're only a fan of when Conor fights in WrestleMania. Like that's a weird mix if you start showing UFC fighters at WWE events and WWE wrestlers at UFC events. It gets weird.
Yeah, because I just think it takes away from the sport. It is a whatever the top 5 sports in the world. None of those sports have to do that. And with the UFC doing it, but again, I'm going to keep the same energy. Where as a businessman, hell yeah, dude, their evaluation goes from whatever it was, 12 billion to 22 billion now. Joining forces with WWE. I get it. I get what you guys are doing. That's making all the money in the world. I get it. So it's hard to hate on it.
For sure.
I just think...
Yeah, it's hard to talk shit about it.
It is. Yeah. Dana's like, what? I have 7 private jets. I'm like, do your thing, man. Do your fucking thing, dude. It's working. And it's also...
I totally agree.
Yeah, it's like with the... Have you been watching Ultimate Fighter? Are you an Ultimate Fighter fan?
A little bit. I hadn't watched it in a while, like probably the last 5 seasons.
Yeah, same.
And so I've watched every episode up till now. It's not terrible.
Let me ask you this, Anthony, before you answer.
Like the format is different.
Let me ask you this. Is it an outdated model? Because I can't put my finger on it, what it is. Is it because I'm the same with you? When it went to, I think it was ESPN Plus, we had to pay for it, and it was kind of weird. And there was Dana White Contender Series, which is much better fighters on there and exciting fights. I'd always watch that, so I got away from Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah.
Then when Conor came back and it's on regular terrestrial TV and ESPN, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna check it out. And being Ultimate Fighter alumni, I want it to do well. I love the Ultimate Fighter, and I'm watching. I'm like, oh, it's missing something. And I'm like, is it just me, or is this kind of the layout? Is it outdated? Does this not work anymore in 2023?
I think it's just it looks too much of the same. I think it's the jerseys and the house and the it's all very much the same. The jerseys are a little bit different colors every time, but it's the same shit.
Yep.
I think what held me this one is that there's kind of the vets. So I recognize some of those guys like Cody Gibson, and some of the older guys that have already been around a little bit, or they've been in the UFC and got out, or got cut or whatever. I think that's what's holding me in, because I want to see those guys do well. Because I'm always kind of rooting for the
redemption story.
The underdog, the guys that, got a shot but didn't figure it out right away. And you're trying to, they're trying to have a second act, I guess. So I root for those guys, but I don't know what it is. It could just be the format it just looks the same every single season. I don't know how you change that. Like even the Ultimate Fighter logo is exactly the same. Yep. So it just looks like you could move in different coaches and it's kind of the same shit.
Agree. And I think ratings are on your side there as well. Like you see the ratings, not great.
And there needs to be more Conor.
Agree. Needs to be more
because I think that's.
And I also think it's hurting him and this is my issue with the show. And I had Laura Sanko on, and she actually was opposed to my reasoning for not liking the format. The vets, I'm with you. I like seeing them have a redemption story. I don't like that there's prospects in the house. I think it should be an all vet house or all prospects, because the original idea of the Ultimate Fighter was young talent, give them a platform, and then we get to see their rise through the UFC. So when you have a young prospect versus guys who have been in the UFC, and some of those guys, like the guy who fought last night, had a 7-fight career in the UFC, went 3-4. He's been in some big fights, man. He's been on pay-per-views. He's been, in some big UFCs. He has that experience, and that's such an advantage to these prospects who are wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, don't have the experience. Right. The experience, this better than anybody. You have more experience than damn near the entire roster. That experience is so critical. It's so key. And maybe I'm biased because when I was on The Ultimate Fighter, I had 3 fights. Go in the house with 3 fights. I'm looking around. I'm asking, how many fights you have? Matt Mitrione lied, said he had 3. He had like 2 amateur fights. So basically had 0 fights. D'Amico Rogers had, I think, 2 fights. I'm like looking around. I'm like, okay, we're all about the same. And I see Roy Nelson. I'm like, and I knew fight. I'm like, is that Roy Nelson? Like, yeah, I'm like, dude, he has 30 fights and he's a former world champion. He fought Ben Rothwell before he fucking fought our dumbasses. So I was mad. I was like, oh, we're fucked, dude. I knew from day one. I'm like, and I knew if I got to the finals, he'd be in the finals. That's the guy. He has 30 fights.
Right.
We don't have that experience. He's going to be able to take advantage of us. So maybe it's my own personal thing with that, but I'm like, oh, those poor prospects. And you see how it's going. Yeah. Chandler's 3-0. It's not even close. Yeah.
And I'm not shocked by that. Yeah, I'm not shocked by that at all.
I told my guys when I walked down, I'm telling you, Conor's screwed. And I think that's one of the reasons maybe the viewership's not as high as Conor's losing every time. And it's not close.
Right. I figured that the vets were going to be a lock overall. Are there going to be some prospects that break through a little bit? For sure. But Chandler's not stupid. And this isn't just a TV show to him. I think that's part of the difference too. Is like this is a TV show for ratings, and Conor's just there to play a position.
Correct.
Chandler's actually there to win. Like he actually gives a shit about winning the show. Whereas I don't know that Conor does. I think that he's got a different goal in mind, which I totally get. I totally understand. But Chandler's there to win. And those vets, this is their last opportunity and they know it. The prospects don't know what they don't know. Like they might lose here. They go on a regional scene. They go on a 5 or 6 fight win streak. They'll get brought back. These veterans, they know this is probably their last opportunity, and they're kind of looking at a bunch of fresh meat that don't know shit about shit.
Yeah, these vets have kids and shit. It's like, and then you're fighting this young guy. I'm like, bro, kids? You're talking about that dude's fighting for food, dude. You're fighting for fame, get to the UFC. This dude over here is fighting for rent. Big difference, and he has the experience and the skill set. He's been in big fights. Fighting at the Apex Center ain't shit for a homeboy who fought in UFC 200 or whatever he fought in,
Right.
I just don't like that because
like worst case, these prospects, they move back in with their parents. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it doesn't quite work out.
Yeah, exactly. They go back to the gym.
My kids don't eat.
Yeah. My kids don't eat. My kids don't go to school. So it's just a different, I just didn't like that. I think for the prospect, they're at such a disadvantage. Now, Laura Sanko had a good comeback, and that's why I like doing these shows. I don't have anybody to verbally spar with. Laura Sanko goes, well, hold on, Brendan. We don't know how the show ends. There could be a prospect who dominates. Like we haven't gone through, so there might be some badass prospect who goes on to the finale, and then they get to the UFC, and we get to see the run you like to watch. Yeah, fair. I'm just saying,
which is fair.
When you look at the veterans, at the end of the day, let's say, and the odds are on my side, let's say a veteran wins that show. He's already been in the UFC. So we can't give him some young buck in the UFC who's never fought in the UFC, because this guy's, he's had 7-8 fights already. Right. He's coming off the Ultimate Fighter. He has a name. We're going to toss him in the top 15. You're telling me
he's thrown in the mix right away.
Bro, have to. Because he's not some young prospect who's just me fighting on the undercards. He has to get thrown in the mix. You're telling me there's the talent on that veteran list who can compete with the top 15? Eesh. I just don't see a win for the UFC there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point, because you can't throw in a guy who I don't remember the kid's name that fought. Not this last episode, but the one before. It's a black kid.
Oh, the quick knockout.
What was his name? And
he had
He
had a tattoo said like money over hose or some shit on his chest.
Yeah, he has like money over
hell yeah. That shit's lit, dude. They guys fight for the right reasons.
Right. But like I've worked events, like working the desk, and like that was one of the guys that we were like spotlighting.
Yeah.
Like, why are you on the Ultimate Fighter?
Yeah, dude.
Like, how the fuck did that happen?
Yeah.
Like, if he wins the show, like you said, he's gonna fight 3 debut guys in a row. I think not.
No, he gets tossed in the mix. It's like, don't get me wrong, I love a good story, but good luck, man. But if it's a young prospect and they're fighting other young prospects, we can build them. They lose one, it's not the end of the world. Everyone's going to gravitate towards that young kid and root for him. You know, it's like almost the Paddy Pimblett effect or Sean O'Malley. Like Sean O'Malley, he didn't have the skill set to get tossed in the top 15 his first fight. Came off Dana White Contender Series, huge knockout, a lot of hype. They've built him the right way, and now arguably top 5 biggest stars in the UFC. That's the way you should do it. So,
well, and that's it. I think the Contender Series is a gem. I think favorite. That I love that. I love it. It cuts a lot of the bullshit that I don't really care about. You get a quick little snapshot of kind of where they come from, their life behind all this other fighting stuff, and then you get right into the fights, and it's like a free. It feels like an extra fight card every Tuesday. I love the Contender Series.
That might Absolutely. Be what it is there too. Is the Dana White Contender Series cuts all the fat. You get the talent. Those guys go right in the UFC. You kind of don't need the Ultimate Fighter. It's like if I'm a manager and a young kid comes up to you and goes, "Hey, I got an offer, Ultimate Fighter, Dana White Contender Series." I go, Dana White, you don't have to deal with all the bullshit. You go right to the UFC, get a good knockout. You
don't have to be in a house for 6 weeks.
Yeah, proven stars. You're not fighting 3 times.
And you got 3 weeks of Contender Series guys right there. Like you can, because if I remember right, at the beginning when the Contender Series was getting ready to come out, I thought that some of the idea was that if there was a guy that maybe was in the UFC, had some struggles, but that maybe they still believed in him, then they just bumped him back to the Contender Series and then brought in a super experienced guy from the regional scene. And then they just fight. It's kind of like you just throw a bone in there and just make them fight for it.
Almost like a feeder league,
which I love.
Me too.
I love like kind of dangling that fruit in front of their face, and then you just throw it in and just say, fucking fight for it, boys.
Yep, who wants it? And the fights are exciting too. The fights are exciting.
They are, because those guys want it.
The only bummer is if you have a young prospect, now obviously he's in the UFC now, and I think you could fight top 5, is if you had a young prospect and it was the same time Bo Nickel was on the Dana White Contender Series. Everybody fucked. Like I told Bo, he came here, I'm like, what are you doing, dude? Like just go straight to the UFC. You're stealing all these guys' dreams. Like these poor kids. Like, and you look at Bo Nickel, maybe I'm just a hardcore dick rider, but I just think with his skill set, what we've seen, obviously this next fight a little more challenging for him. I think it's a great test. After that, man, it's off to the races, top 15. You look at this stylistically, like I think he does well, top 5, man.
In a couple years, Bo Nickel is going to be a problem.
Yes.
If him and David Taylor fight in different weight classes.
Oh, that's interesting. Sure. You think
if Go ahead. Like if him and David Taylor end up in the same weight class, Bo runs into the similar problems he had wrestling.
That's a good point. Opinion. Yeah.
But Bo's got a little he's got a little bit of a run on David right now, but David's really progressing quickly.
Yeah, he's a beast. It's just a matter of time.
He's learning really fast.
I think what makes Bo an outlier, we've had big, prospects come in the UFC from wrestling, and all credentialed. But for Bo, when I see this fluidity of his striking and the way he can mix it up and his grappling, and I was like, what belt are you? He's like, blue belt. I'm like, you need to talk to your coach, man. Because his transitions, the inverted triangle that he's pulling off and all this shit, that is not blue belt level stuff here, man. So I just think the way he mixes it right now. Yeah, man. The way
I think his mentality makes a difference too. I haven't spent a lot of time around Bo Nickel, but I've spent a lot of time around David Taylor. And they're two different personalities. Like Bo was very abrasive, and he just, even watching him wrestle, seems very mean.
Yes.
Like he's one of those guys that just lives to head snap someone's face into the mat.
To break you.
And David is so clean technically. He's such a technician. I think when he moves over to fighting, I think Bo has the advantage just mentality wise, because sometimes you just got to be an asshole.
Agree.
And just be meaner than the other guy. And I think Bo has a little more of that than David does.
And David, he still has he taken any fights yet, or he's just in the process of doing it?
No, he's just trying to wrestle and kind of grow his MMA name or MMA game at the same time. Which his focus is still he just made the world team. His focus is wrestling in one more Olympics, and then he's going to make the full transition. So he's trying to do both at the same time. Which is hard because wrestling's always going to be his number one right now.
Very tough.
So it's a very slow progression.
And just for the viewers and listeners out there, David Taylor is the one who beat Bo Nickel.
Yeah, so they were teammates at Penn State.
State.
I'm not sure if they wrestled at Penn State at the same time, but they were both Penn State guys. And they were in the same weight class wrestling for the worlds and to get a world team spot. And, you know, like not for nothing, I think Bo Nickel is a fantastic wrestler, especially at his days at Penn State. I'm a huge
legend,
a huge Division I college wrestling fan. So
me too.
I was a Bo Nickel nut hugger, but I was a bigger David Taylor nut hugger, and David just wins those matchups.
Yeah, that's just how it's always for the world team. Yeah, so, he's a savage.
Yeah, it's just how it is.
I'm excited when it comes over.
It's not like, you know, it's not like you're losing to a nobody. You know, when I say that, people, he's shitting on Bo Nickel. Like,
oh no,
the dude's an Olympic gold medalist.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's what hang your head on. I'm excited for Bo. I hope it goes well for him, and they're giving him the right test. Too. I'm excited for him. Well, I know you're busy, dude. You got to get back to that pool. You still hanging out at the pool? How old are the kiddos?
My oldest is 11. Then I have 8, an 8-year-old, and then my 6-year-old just turned 6 today.
Oh,
and then we have a 1.5-year-old.
Damn, you're in the thick of it, Daddy. You are in the thick of it.
All daughters.
Oh, all girls.
I got all girls.
Good for you, brother.
It's wild.
Good for you, man.
It's wild.
We'll let you get back to the B-Day party and the pool party, man. I appreciate the time. We're trying to get you on forever, man. I'm a big fan.
I know it.
I think you're one of the best minds in the game, and love to have you back, brother. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, man. I'd love to do the food truck diaries too. That always looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, food truck or fight companion would be fun too. But you usually work in those fights.
That'd be a blast.
Yeah, we'll figure out which one you're not on, but we'll figure it out, brother. Appreciate you, man.
Perfect.